after the Bills-Ravens game, we were really quick to say that we all thought that the Ravens and the Bills were two of the best teams in the NFL, the two best teams in the AFC. Well, Baltimore's 1-3 now. And many are starting to ask, is the season already slipping away? I think that's overly reactive, and I feel as though there are maybe some folks that are acting as if there are some serious problems that can't get resolved. We need to add the context. I know the whole Marlon Humphrey thing has been a little bit of a contentious issue because the secondary hasn't played well, but they've faced 3 Super Bowl contenders in their first 4 weeks. They gave up 41 to the Bills, 38 to the Lions, 37 to the Chiefs. 133 points is the most that has been allowed so far through 4 games in franchise history for the Ravens. I know that doesn't sound great, and I know that they have not been their typical level of detail-oriented under Harbaugh, but it feels as though that they're eventually going to return to their identity, and that defense will get back to form.
I tell you, they're going to return this week against the Texans. The Texans won against a bad Titans team. They mean nothing. And they got the Rams. So this is a nightmare start to the season for Baltimore. Just a gauntlet of all gauntlets. But then you get Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals. Burrow still won't be back. Steelers, Bengals, Patriots. And they could rip off like 10 in a row and completely start catching heat against the skells of the NFL. They're in a gauntlet right now. I'm not worried about Baltimore one bit. The one thing I am worried about, the receiving options on offense. That is a genuine concern for me. Zay Flowers is having a good year, averaging 76 yards a game. The next leading receiver is averaging 32 yards per game. That's Mark Andrews. You have one guy over 33 yards a game that you can count on. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is catching touchdowns. Andrews is catching touchdowns. Like, they're getting the guys in the end zone. But for moving the ball downfield, they have a significant issue with the receiving core and how they're going to be doing that, because they don't do it. They don't go down the field through yards. It's Derrick Henry or Lamar running it. And Lamar, I think that pressure of him having to run, and he can't make Rashad Bateman an all-pro wide receiver. He's trying, but he can't do it. It's just not that he's capped at his wide receiver ceiling. Lamar is taking on too much right now, and that means the offense needs to change. He's been sacked 15 times this year compared to his team sacking opponent quarterbacks 4 times. He's moving too much in the pocket. That's because his receivers can't get open. He's stalled. He can't just do one read, bang, there's my guy. One read, he's covered 2, bang, there's my guy. No, he has to keep on jittering in the pocket, and then he gets sacked when it ends up closing in because the offensive line isn't totally dominant. So the Ravens offensively have issues with sustaining drives due to unnecessary sacks, but that only happens because of coverage sacks because their wide receivers aren't that good. So that is the real concern for Baltimore. Overwhelmingly, though, I still think they beat like 9 out of every 10 NFL teams.
Yeah, this is my point. I would kind of say that a Ravens team that's dealing with issues, the problems that they have don't feel as though they're such large issues that are going to hold them back.
Panic isn't, I don't think it's a panic meter. I'm trying to think of the word.
It's like, just more like, man, it feels like they keep getting there and they keep getting set up. They have had one of the hardest schedules to this point. And
yeah,
I almost kind of expected, and it felt like they had to deal with the Chiefs after they had a slow start. That's a recipe for disaster. They're trying to figure out their identity and they're trying to get their energy back, and it's the game that they get Xavier Worthy back. There was a really hard shot there for them. It was going to be a really tough opportunity for them to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs because they needed to get back on track just as much as the Ravens did. They're not blessed with these chances to dick down the New Orleans Saints like the Bills just had a chance to. They don't get those shots to do that. They don't get to smoke the Chicago Bears like the Detroit Lions did. They have been put through an absolute ridiculous schedule to start this season. Of course, your flaws are going to get accentuated when you're playing 3 Super Bowl contenders in your first 4 weeks of the year. That's going to happen. It's what happens when you play good teams.
Yeah.
It's just like in college football. It's a very different sport for the way that their schedules work. But a lot of times when you watch a team open the season with a premier program like Texas did when they played Ohio State, their passing situation, their passing offense didn't get time to be developed week over week with shit games against San Jose State and Sam Houston State for them to work through the kinks and figure out what plays work.
Yeah, flex on the walk-ons, do all the fun stuff.
Yeah, they got thrown into the fire immediately. So when you have to go up against the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Lions, you don't have any stretches of, all right, we got to focus on what we can lean into and what works well for us and identify what problems are being caused and how to adjust. They're being completely torched because they're forced with this opening schedule to play their best ball, and they don't have any time to self-reflect and determine what needs to be fixed.
I think the offense still runs through Derrick Henry, and it certainly needs to. 8 carries, 42 yards versus the Chiefs. You say that, and you would say, okay, Baltimore probably lost that. I would say that if they played the Steelers and Derrick Henry had 8 carries for 42 yards, they'd probably lose. It runs through him because that gives the true threat, and it's not just I need to watch number 8 in the backfield and see what he's doing, if he's taking off or if he's passing the ball. When you have Derrick Henry as a legitimate threat to go to the house and he's not getting clamped down, then it completely opens up Baltimore. The Lamar injury versus non-injury conversation is a weird one right now, where he might have a hamstring injury. He might have just taken himself out of the game because they were getting blown out. I would have yanked him too. I think it was the right call. You're hoping that he's healthy. You're hoping that he can be healthy for that stretch of gimmies that they get. I'm not concerned about Baltimore. The main point of this is it's for the NFL. It's good that Kansas City got right against a good opponent, and they are actually going to start finding their footing and become really dominant and strong again. NFL needs a villain. Kansas City's served that very well. Baltimore needs to just get right and start playing good regular season football, which they've done very well over the last 10 years. I think they get right. I think they expose Houston in this upcoming week. And then we're looking at Baltimore starting to chip back in it. Also, AFC North, I'm not worried for Baltimore coming back and taking that division.
No.
Browns uber shit.
Yeah.
We're about to watch the turbo shit Bengals tonight. And then the Steelers, we'll talk about them. But
if we get to it.
But that shoe, it's hanging up there, and
Right.
it's telling everybody, hey, I'm dropping, folks. So I'm ready for that also.